just mic'd up with Mikie Mahtook. Got the boys in. I got Lloyd. We got J. Mitch. We got Jackie Boy.
He tried to jump up and he might have knocked it in.
Good timing. Let's go. What a start to the Monday. I mean, I'm from Lafayette. My boys would come in, say,
oh, God.
So me and Joe on the ground. I got Joe in the headlock. And he's sitting there.
Helmet.
He's punching me in the stomach, like steady punching me.
Here, and as everyone's sitting around, who here thinks Ovchinko can practice today after having 5 full beers? And he goes, Chad Jones, right? Chad's been with the team
6 minutes.
for 7 minutes, right? Chad's like, no, man, I don't think Ovchinko can practice today. And I was like, I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. I fucking saw you there. You were more fucked up than me.
Be on the spirit plane had some issues. I think she was sleep farting.
You heard her or you just thought it was her?
I sat right next to her. I smelled.
Whoa. What was that?
Time to start the show. Why would I have that?
You had the circus or something.
6:03, I'm late. Like, I don't even know what I'd be doing.
Now, when you do go to spring training, are you going to bring your chinchilla and your turtle? My dad tell you about it?
The SEC is, God, they hate fat people. I mean, I get crushed for that. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, man.
Hey, just the South, bro. You got a bunch of food down here. Like they're all fatter than I am.
Players, look at Lloyd.
You know what, Lloyd?
I mean, you're looking for a recruiting coordinator, coach. I'm here.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll piss my pants right now.
No way.
We're wearing gray pants, long gray pants. He goes, I'll piss my pants right now. Hello. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. Today is Wednesday, August 16th. We are here in Perkins Row at Cards and Culture, our new home. We are excited. Cards and Culture is actually closed right now, but it will be open again tomorrow and on Friday during our show. So come and watch our show here on Friday. Walk on in, shop, look at some cards, do some really cool things, and come and hang out with us. But today's Wednesday. We have a huge show for you today. Lot to talk about. There's a lot of going on in the sports world. This is the time in the football world where you start to really get antsy. All these preseason games are starting to build up. You're starting to see some of these starters play. You're getting excited. College football is right around the corner. It is a week away. 8 days away. Next Thursday is the first game of the season, the 26th. No.
It's 10 days away.
10 days away.
Yeah.
Math is not my forte.
10
days away. That was Saturday. Next Saturday.
College football usually.
Sometimes they put it on the Thursday. Now there's football every day, usually. But you are starting to gear up towards college football. This weekend, LSU has their big preseason scrimmage leading up into the season. It is open to – is it open to the public?
Open to the media.
Open to the media, not the public, and some former players. What'd you say? And alumni, right? So there's a lot of guys that are going to be there. I talked to a lot of my friends that were here when I was playing. They were playing football at the same time. They're going to be there. I know Jared, who is an alumni on the football team. He is going to be there. Hopefully, we are all going to be on the field as well. We will see. Not on the field playing, obviously. That would not be good. That would not be good, I don't think. But on
I
the
got
field,
none in me.
on the sidelines watching, I think I could, a couple plays. But, I mean, not going to be much. Yeah, not going to be much. But, yeah, so there's a lot I want to see. We're going to get into that. Today is Wednesday, which is Ask Mikey and Mitch Day. We are back on that train. Appreciate Jack for promoting that. That is something that we're going to continue to do throughout the course of our show and the course of the football season. And other news, running through these Heineken headlines, Denver Harris is away from the team right now, dealing with personal matters. And I put that in quotations because that's what that's how it was quoted in the article and in the in print article. It was said by Brian Kelly. Obviously there's been a lot of smoke around what's going on. I think that there's some things that he needs to take care of. And look, this is something that we talked about when Brian Kelly took over LSU. He needed to change the culture. It didn't matter. There wasn't one person that was bigger than the team. There wasn't one person that was bigger than the program. And I think you're starting to see that, and I think you saw that last year. And so Denver Harris is not kicked off the team. He is not in a position where he can't return to the team, but he needs to go handle some things personally. And then hopefully they're saying if he does that, he will be back this weekend. Mason Smith, who also gave a scare to all of the fans earlier in practices, has a suffered ankle sprain. He is back doing drills. He's back on the field. The cornerback position with Denver Harris, not out there right now, is a little thinner. But I think some of the guys that they brought in and some of these young guys, Ashton Stance being one of them, is starting to
Blossom.
Separate themselves from the field, which I think is a huge thing. In baseball news, Paul Skeens, who I was wrong about the situation. I thought he wasn't going to throw at all. He has thrown. Looks like they're just going to throw him for an inning at a time.
Who called that?
You said it. You did say it. Jared did say it. They're going to throw him for an inning at a time. It looks like they're going to go, hey, you're going to go short season, or you're going to go rookie ball, then you're going to go to A ball. You're going to be there for a couple outings. He'll probably end up in AA, finish that off. Spring training, big leagues next year, hopefully. He throws his first low A, has his first low A outing, goes one inning, strikes out two. Typical work for him. Friend of the show, friend of ours, Paul Gervais. He was on the team 2 years ago here at LSU. He just got promoted to AA. His numbers in the minor leagues are pretty outrageous. He is almost striking out 2 per inning, I believe, maybe 1.5 per inning. His ERA is sub-3. He's having an outstanding year. Watching him pitch here at LSU and his size and his makeup and the ability, like his arm slot, he looked like a future closer, future back into the bullpen guy in the big leagues, and he is showing that. Obviously, he has, he's in AA, so that's the next big jump for him. He goes out strong in AA. You can expect to potentially see him next year in the big leagues. Staying on former LSU baseball players, you have an enormous matchup tonight in the MLB world. You have Kevin Gausman going up against Aaron Nola. They both are on the same rotation here in LSU. Aaron Nola, I think, was the 5th or 6th overall pick, and Gausman was the 4th overall pick, I believe. Both of these guys are having outstanding seasons. Gausman is number 2 right now in the odds to win the AL Cy Young. Number 1, I believe, is – I just looked at it, and I don't know it. And I'm going to think about it later. But he is number 2. Hopefully he surpasses and wins the Cy Young. He has been pitching lights out. I think he's outperformed his contract.
He's been lights out for the past year and a half.
Yeah, since they signed that
2 years and a half.
Yeah, since he signed that $110 million deal, he's outperformed that. I think he's, 5 years for 110 is 22 a year. I think he looks like he's pitching at a $30-35 million a year pitcher. He's an ace. So I'm pumped to watch that after the show. Obviously, it's going on, I think, right now.
At 6, yeah, starts at 6.
Yeah, it started right now. So maybe we can put it on in the background. Maybe.
Definitely.
Maybe.
He's doing business.
Some business going on back there. And then to round out our show, it is 6:09. Billy Embody is coming on at 6:20 to talk recruiting, all LSU recruiting. Obviously, 2024 recruiting is well underway. Early signing period for that is in, I say early, first signing period. I hate saying early because that is really the signing period. First signing period is in December. They have a really good class. I think that it can get better. We're going to ask him those questions. The 2025 class for next year is off to a great start. Obviously it is football season, and we're going to get a lot of football conversation. So Billy Embody will have all of your recruiting questions answered. If you have questions for me and Jay, for Billy, if you want, throw them in the chat, and we will get to them as we go throughout the show. Last night, Tuesdays in August, are the Hard Knocks days, right? And I was watching, I'm very fond of the program that is Hard Knocks.
Hard to not be.
Hard to not be. I think they've done a really good job. Going into this season of Hard Knocks, the Jets, you heard some backlash. They didn't really want to do it, or they didn't want to do this, that. So part of what they did is they didn't want to highlight some of their undrafted guys, or the guys who are kind of on the roster, maybe not make the roster like they normally do, to where you kind of fall in love with some of these underdog stories, and then you see them get cut and all these types of things. They made it clear they do not want to be a part of that. They don't want the cameras in there when the coaches are talking to these kids and they're cutting them, or they're making the team, or all these types of things. So you've seen Hard Knocks highlight a lot of the stars that are going to be there, their role, and particularly Aaron Rodgers. They've highlighted him literally every show. It's about Aaron Rodgers, basically. You had Quinnen Williams, obviously, yesterday, he's a monster, by the way, dude. Like, he absolutely...
Bless you. Thank you. That's him. From...
Yeah. I was like, what? Okay,
that's where a lot of people got to know him if they didn't watch him in Alabama. But that was like his viral moment. Was like, oh, he's a goofball.
But yeah, and like he even said it in the show, right? He's like, some people, when you get money, it changes you, and he does all these types of things. He goes, that's not my personality. I want to be a better person. Like, the money makes you.
It's like you could be a good person and have a lot of money.
Yeah, it magnifies what you are as a person, right? If you're a bad person, more money makes you a worse person. If you're a good person, money just makes you a better person just because you can do better things with it. And I think that's a really good thing. That's a person that you want to give money to. He's obviously not disappointed. I'm looking forward to watching him. And then, obviously Aaron Rodgers gets to go through the Aaron Rodgers stuff. So I've enjoyed Hard Knocks so far. It's been a little different than it normally has. What are y'all's takes on it?
Best one in years.
It's been great for Aaron too. Like, Aaron's image is like
image, and like you said, they are really featuring Aaron on this thing in a lot of different ways, and it's not necessarily in just straight up interviews, if you will. Like, they have him mic'd up, but they're getting candid stuff from him, and it's, in my opinion, it's been great stuff. Like, there's just been little candid moments where you can just kind of see his personality, like his real personality kind of get out there, and you can see other people interact with him and understand why he's quote-unquote been so good for so long. It's not just the talent that kind of gets you to the level that he's gotten himself to. He obviously is very, very, very gravitational and very, very, very charismatic, and people want to play with and play for him, and that's been pretty obvious if you ask me over the past couple of years about how many guys he's kind of bringing with him and keep in the building and stuff like that. I think the show's been really, really, really good. I'm enjoying it. And I also enjoy the fact that I think someone who I've seen play for a long time, who's had a very, very long career, for some reason right now is getting the most TV time you think you've ever seen him get, and that's Al Woods, obviously.
I know.
He is all over the show.
And it's
right
only
now.
for like snippets, but it's like every show.
I feel like every cut he's somewhere in there right now, and it's pretty cool to see.
It's been great. You forget that he's just hanging around. He's been very productive. You're not, obviously, you don't hang around unless you're not productive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think another part of the show that I've enjoyed watching is the growth on the field a little bit and the behind-the-scenes stuff with Aaron and Zach Wilson. I've talked about it a lot on the show, right? Zach Wilson, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-pro and he's not going to be the best. He may not be the best quarterback in the league, but he's super talented. He came back in. Last year he was not ready. It looked like he was way overwhelmed, and he comes off as maybe a little spoiled maybe a little entitled, maybe someone who doesn't really work super hard.
Big private school energy.
Right? That you just don't see that. That's just kind of the vibe that you get. And I'm not saying that's how he is or that's not how he is. That's just kind of the vibe you get from the outside in. So watching him kind of interact with Aaron and what he's done on the field in the preseason games, I get it's preseason. But he didn't look like this last preseason. You watch him, and Aaron's in there. He's coaching them up, and they're in film study, and they're, he's jabbing at Aaron, and Aaron's jabbing back. Like, I think that's good to see. Now, the leadership side of it, obviously, that's hard to teach. You have to grow into that, or you have to have that. And so I'm interested to see his growth, but I think this is the best thing that's happened in his career was having Aaron at the quarterback position on the field to learn from.
Sometimes you're put in situations that you really don't have any control over, right? Like, he's in the league for 2 years. It's up and down, probably more downs than ups. And then all of a sudden, that team makes a move to bring in a quarterback because they think they're in a win-now situation. And not only do they bring in a quarterback, they didn't bring in someone where there was at least even a sliver of the thought that I'm in a quarterback competition. As soon as that happened and it became official, he knew right then and there, I am at best the 2. So if I'm here, you better basically fall in line and learn as much as you can. And for some people, a lot of people, if you take that with the right mindset, that's the best way to go about it, right? Because you're no longer day in and day out watching yourself make the same throws he makes and this and that, and all of a sudden on Sunday he plays well or he doesn't play well, and you're like, oh, I should be starting. Hey, bro, they signed this guy, and when he came in, he was on a $50 million a year contract. You're not playing.
Right.
I don't care what he does. If he's healthy and he's dressed, he's playing. And it's really that simple, and there is nothing you can do about it. And I think if you can kind of understand that and see that, then you put yourself in a situation where you don't feel slighted if he's not at the tip top of his game Sunday in and Sunday out, as if like you should be playing. Because I would imagine with being the number 2 overall pick, there's a lot of throws in practice that Aaron makes that he probably makes just as well. Right? And so he probably feels like, man, I could do this too. But understanding, I ain't playing.
He knows his role.
I'm not playing.
Right,
dog.
which is good.
Which is where, so I'm saying sometimes like you don't have this situation happen, and it seems like he's taking it as the best way to take it because it really is what it is.
No doubt. And they had a side-by-side of his play action, roll out left, flip the hips, and kind of flick it for the touchdown. Like they did a side-by-side to Aaron last year in Green Bay, and it looked the exact same. So you can tell they're doing this stuff together. Like, hey, you can't just roll out and just throw it this way. Like, you have got to square yourself up. It's the little things, right? And so this is in anything, right? This is in any sport you play, anything you do really in life, right? Business, work, family, whatever it is. The littlest things, if you focus on the little details, like that adds up to become big things later down the line, right? So like they had a clip about in the quarterback room about play fakes, right? Look how good Aaron's play fakes are, right? And you're young, and you're like, oh, play fakes, what does that mean? Like
they don't matter.
No. They matter a lot, right? There may be this much of the what makes you a good quarterback, but really good play fakes brings the linebackers in, brings the safety in.
Takes that defensive end who's rushing, stops his feet
for just a little bit, and the split second makes the biggest difference. And to see him do that and see that they're putting so much emphasis on that, I think that is a huge thing, and I think that you can carry that over. The same conversations that they're having in New York, you can have right now at LSU, right? Like Jaden Daniels wants to make that next jump. That's all part of it, right? Like, hey, if I pay attention to detail on these play actions, or if I carry it out just a little bit longer, if I hide the ball just a little bit longer, well, then when I look up, the safety may be out of position just a little bit, or the linebacker may be out of position just a little bit where I could throw it over his head to the tight end or go over the top to Malik or whatever it is. And I think that's a great lesson for anyone out there to look at and watch, because like those things matter. And if the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, puts that much emphasis on it, I think everybody should. And you can tell that it's starting to help those younger guys there.
I would to add to that, I would say very seldomly do you get a chance to see someone who has been as successful in their career and get like a almost like an everyday feel to see how they go through stuff. And you touched on it, but like I truly do believe that people look at like a lot of like athletes and great athletes as if they're like superheroes, and they're not. They're regular people. They're just like everybody else. But I do think the one thing that is very, very, very common, probably with like 99% of great athletes, is, like you said, the little things that they do the consistency rate that they do those things at, whereas someone else may say, it doesn't matter and only matters every 1 out of 3 times instead of 4 out of 3 times, obviously. Like the consistency rate that they do the very, very, very fundamental, simple things at is so insanely high that's what takes them to a different level that people perceive as they're just a better person. When it's really, their attention to that and ability to do those little things is just crazy, crazy high.
Well, I think that's, a big reason why everybody was so excited when Brian Kelly got here, right? Because he was going to implement that kind of stuff and that culture around LSU, and you're seeing
been missing
that
for a while,
right? And you're seeing that with Denver Harris, the Denver Harris situation right now. We're going to get into that in a little bit. I know Billy's coming on at 6:20. I don't know if he's in there. He is in there. Perfect. We are going to get into that conversation after we have our conversation with Billy Embody, because listen, recruiting is what makes LSU and the future of LSU so exciting. The 2024 class looks really good. The 2025 class looks really promising. I can only give you the information that I know, which is not that much. Billy Embody knows a whole hell of a lot more than I do, so I'm excited to ask him these questions. You're watching Miked Up. We'll be back to you in 30 seconds. Let's get him situated. We'll be right back. Located on 3723 Government Street. Everybody knows about their Wall of Famous steaks and their hot tamales, but what you may not know is that they're open for lunch every day from 11 to 2. Great people, great environment. Their lunch menu is fire. What's the best thing on the menu?
If you haven't tried it yet, you need to try the burger. Unbelievable. Best burger in town.
Best burger in town. If you're looking for lunch, 11 to 2 at Doe's Eat Place. Again, they're located on 3723 Government Street. Give them a shot.
Billy, you got me?
Got you.
All right, cool. Good deal. All right, coming to you.
Doe's Eat Place is located on 3723 Government Street. Everybody knows about their Wall of Famous steaks and their hot tamales, but what you may not know is that they're open for Welcome back to Miked Up. Listen,
I love some Doe's.
listen,
Come on here.
I did two ads in one, 2 commercials in 1 break. I'm sorry. We are excited to introduce our next guest. Billy Embody covers everything LSU recruiting for On3 Sports. Billy, I appreciate you joining the show. We've had you on a couple times. You obviously know a whole hell of a lot more than I do in the recruiting world. It seems to me that this 2024 recruiting class is off to a really good start, but I think that there's a lot left out there. and I think that some people may be committed somewhere and can make changes at the end. Do you get that same feeling, and what's the outlook? How do you see this class finishing up in December and January or February?
Yeah, right now sits in a good spot. You've got a class that ranks 6th overall in the country, and that's a really good position to be in when you're looking at how things kind of played out over the course of the summer. LSU took some big swings on some highly touted guys. Somebody like Colin Simmons comes to mind. He ends up going to Texas, but LSU came away with his 4-star running back teammate, Caden Durham, who's one of the best running backs in the country, one of the fastest guys in the country. They also reeled in a 2025 prospect that they impressed while Caden Durham was on campus, DeCorian Moore, his 5-star teammate. So they're building some momentum, and even if you look at before Caden Durham, who got a lot of the buzz lately, they beat Texas A&M on Ori Williams, a really high upside offensive tackle from the state of Texas. They also went into the state of Florida and got Kai Bates, one of the top cornerbacks in the entire country, and a recruitment where a lot of people thought Tennessee was going to get him in the end. Jelani Watkins is one of the fastest players in the country. He's also committed now at wide receiver for the Tigers. But I think one of the best moments of this summer was, and it just kind of shows you what can still happen over the course of these next however many months we've got. Tylen Singleton from Manny High School, a guy that LSU hadn't had on campus since April. An in-state player at a program that LSU had some struggles with getting guys out of. One of the best linebackers in the country. He's versatile. He can play safety, play a little nickel linebacker, maybe grow into a bigger linebacker. But Tylen Singleton ends up committing to LSU before the Bayou Splash even happens. And I think that was big to make that statement in the state of Louisiana. Now, we've seen a Colin Simmons commit elsewhere. We've seen Wardell Mack commit to Florida, a surprise. And he's the state's number 2 overall prospect and plays his high school ball at John Ehret in the New Orleans area. But instead of going to Texas, he goes to Florida as of right now. That's one where LSU is going to keep hammering away, trying to make some noise. And they've got some other targets out there as well. Dominic McKinley, the state's number 1 prospect, hasn't made a decision just yet. He's expected to do that right around the start of his senior season. He's a 5-star for us if the rankings ended today. LSU's battling Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and others there. This class sits at number 6 in the country with a large base of it built on Louisiana. I think Brian Kelly and his staff have done a better job casting a smaller net, and there's still some multiple 5-star prospects that are going to come to campus next month too for official visits.
So you talked about Colin Simmons and you talked about Dominic McKinley. Obviously, Colin Simmons was the number 1 guy on their board. McKinley kind of maybe got put a little bit in the back burner, but the defensive end position is such a premier recruiting spot because those are really hard guys to get, especially those 5-star guys that are coming off the edge. There's not many of them. The Colin Simmons recruitment, obviously, he goes to Texas. I feel like that one's not over. You just mentioned that they're still working on that. Does Dominic McKinley, him going to Texas, does that ramp up LSU's recruitment on Dominic McKinley? And why were they kind of not as, I don't say high, but why weren't they pushing early on for him like they were with Colin Simmons?
I think the interesting thing with Dominic McKinley is we saw some high-level program really jump in there towards the end of his junior season. But it's kind of funny. Sometimes you go to camp and you see prospects that, wow, really jump out to you. And a lot of the time they're offensive or defensive linemen just because those guys are so huge. And some of them really have those measurables you can just see with your own 2 eyes pretty easily. Dominic McKinley has a blurry picture from me back in the summer of 2022, and just because he was the biggest guy on the field. LSU had him at camp. They didn't offer him. He was a guy that was still developing overall, and then he goes out and has this incredible junior season, and then programs across country start calling. We name him a guy as a 5-star for on 3, have him in that range, in that realm of finishing as a 5-star. And for LSU, they go through a defensive line change. They kind of have seen that turnover at the position where you didn't necessarily have the ability to lay some groundwork. And so then you go and you offer him during the January evaluation period. You get him right on campus, him and his family, right before they ended up going to visit Oklahoma. And you felt like, all right, they're going to have a good chance here. And they're in the mix for this recruitment in a big way, especially after his Bayou Splash visit. But sometimes recruiting can be weird where sometimes you see guys that look that good physically and you need to maybe get some extra validation.
Yeah.
And other programs offering like they did, I think, kind of was an example where we saw that with Dominic McKinley, and LSU ends up making the move on him because he was right there last summer. But again, he wasn't a guy that even jumped out enough for us to even really say, wow, we got to go talk to that kid and interview him and things like that. So it has been just a big meteoric rise for him, and he and his family, I think, have done a good job really controlling this recruitment in a way where it could have gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
Things could have gotten crazy, but parents are great. I think they do a really nice job of keeping everything kind of level and trying to go about this the right way, because he's a guy that isn't like a Tylen Singleton or a Wardell Mack where they've been on the radar for years. This has all come so fast. So they've gone through their official visits in June. They came back to LSU for the Bayou Splash. And now as they get ready to make a decision before their senior season, they can kind of weigh the pros and cons and see how the chips fall. For LSU, he's that must-get guy in the state. Tylen Singleton, you kind of thought, okay, they've got a good linebacker class. They can get him. He'd be a nice piece. But he also goes to Manning. Wardell Mack, they've signed a great defense. They've got guys committed that are make up a great defensive back class. But you kind of felt like, all right, New Orleans kids should be in a good spot. Dominic McKinley, position of need with the defensive line tackle spot. If Mason Smith, heads out, they're going to lose other guys. If they have good seasons too, this is one of those players where you've got to land. And he's, once again, when you talk about locking down the state of Louisiana, you can land a lot of quality players. But if you don't get the top two in the state, that's rough. We know what happened last year with like Arch Manning and guys like that. There wasn't much interest on their end. This year, they've had guys on campus multiple times. Yeah. They've got to get Dominic McKinley. And even if for some reason he goes somewhere else when he does make this decision, LSU does have the official visit in its back pocket for later this fall.
Especially from Acadiana and Lafayette. Like that's an area that is a feeder to LSU, right? Like they have had a lot of success in players from that area. So that's someone that you really just don't want someone coming in there and plucking them out of an area that you have had a lot of success with historically, in with your program. So I agree with you. Jay, you got a question?
Yeah, Billy, there's a method to the madness year in and year out. For the casual fan, if you were sitting there looking at the 2023 season and kind of predicting how it goes for LSU, can you explain the positions of needs that LSU has after this year and why they are attacking the positions that they're attacking and what you kind of see them needing at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think when you look at LSU and the cornerback position, and Brian Kelly addressed Denver Harris's status today, that was a guy that they brought in thinking, okay, you've got multiple years, we'll see how things go with him. Last year they signed Javian Toviano, who's very position versatile. Maybe he doesn't play corner the whole time. Jeremiah Hughes, they signed him as a corner. Ashton Stamps has had a really good camp. They have some guys that are kind of coming up, but you also have to complete that rebuild. And I think what they've done with the secondary is really what the doctors ordered for this team in the long run, because they've been able to land two guys that I feel like could very well finish as top 100 prospects, and Andre Evans from Tennessee and Kai Bates from the state of Florida, but both at the very least are top 150 prospects. Then you've got some nickels, Jawan Johnson, Wallace Foster. You've got two of the best safeties in the country, both of which have various skill sets with Deshaun McBride and Joel Rogers, who just aren't talked enough about nationally overall. I think the secondary rebuild was really important for this class. And then you get to the defensive line. I think defensive tackle is a huge need. You've got Demarion Johnson committed. You've got Ahmad Bro. committed who could kind of maybe grow into a defensive tackle, but I think he stays at kind of a strong side defensive end, maybe a sawed-off D tackle. But then you've got a Kalaj Cobbins, who right now is your only guy that you've got in the class as a true edge rusher. He's played linebacker, but I think his overall skill set and just how hard he plays, I would want him coming off the edge. And they kind of talked to him a little bit about playing a Harold Perkins role. But those guys are solid Louisiana prospects. I think you've got to find a way to get a Dominic McKinley or a Colin Simmons. You've got to find a way to get a true instant impact guy along the defensive line, whether it's edge rusher or D tackle. I think Brad Davis has done a great job rebuilding the offensive line, so you don't need to really even add any more guys to that class if you don't need to, especially with the way he's rebuilt it over the years. Tight end, you've got a guy in Trades Green that is really impressive. Check there. Hayden Durham was your lone running back target. One of the best in the country. Frank Wilson gets him across the finish line. Check there. Colin Hurley, four-star quarterback. You've got him on board. And the wide receiver spot is intriguing after signing a great class in 2023. You've got this 2024 class with a bunch of speedy guys, a couple Louisiana guys, and Michael Turner and Kylan Billiot. And then the linebacker group, I think, with Tylen Singleton, Devon Keys, Xavier Atkins is still on committed, kind of, in a somewhat of a weird spot overall, but they have him in the class. So I think what's left now is you've got to get difference-making defensive linemen and edge rushers.
Yeah, a lot of people are blaming you for Colin Simmons not committing to LSU because of you took your vacation, whatever you thought that it was going to be. They moved the commitment date up. Billy ends up going to Maine, I believe, and so he misses out on the announcement, couldn't put him across the finish line. No big
That's
deal.
some lobster?
Yeah, a lobster roll. But I wanted to ask you, in that same vein, when a lot of what came out after the Colin Simmons announcement was this doesn't mean it's over. He flirted with LSU to the LSU hat. Obviously, LSU has been in the running for a long time now. Do you see this going up until signing day? And if it's not that, does LSU almost punt on him and go exclusively for McKinley? Because that's what I know Mikey touched on a little bit, but it does feel like it was you almost picked one or the other, and now LSU is in a spot where, okay, he committed to Texas. Do you kind of punt on that and go as hard as you can for McKinley just to make sure you get one in the boat?
So I think with and his family, and I think they're going about it a little bit different than maybe Colin and his family did. And I don't think either family's wrong on how they're handling it and how they've kind of gone about it overall. Like I think Colin Simmons got put in a situation where I think the NIL money that he is going to get from wherever he goes is awesome. I'm for that.
That's
I think
awesome.
these guys Colin Simmons in NIL. But I think with Colin Simmons, it's not done because of that. And it wouldn't shock me if he pops in on campus for a game. It wouldn't shock me at all. And I think for LSU, they've still got their official visit with him, which they can use. And we'll see if he takes that. But there's going to be kind of that natural cooling off period in a sense of the initial commitment. I think for LSU, you need to turn the heat up on Danny Okoye. He's one of the best edge prospects in the country. He's another tough battle, but he really thought highly of LSU coming off of his June unofficial visit. Turn the heat up there. You are at a place with Colin Simmons where there's no more learning that needs to happen. You just need to keep recruiting and keep, all that to see how it pans out. With Dominic McKinley, I think they're going to need to continue to recruit him all the way through his decision in September, the beginning of September, because I think he has just some different priorities. He's got a brother that's coming up and is going to be on a full ride somewhere. His parents are, both really prioritize education, and that's been a big hit for a lot of programs that they've had to weigh. They're people of faith, and there's just a lot of different pieces there. Whereas Colin was, they whittled it down to distance, they whittled it down to a couple schools, and they really had their priorities with their family in just a little bit of a different sense. And you heard about the announcement, Texas. He felt like that was best for his family to take care of him and all of that. And I think he could very well end up at LSU, and maybe that would be the same sentence he would say at the end. But we just don't know. They're very different recruitments, I think. So you've got to evaluate him differently in that regard.
Absolutely.
Differently in that regard.
And a quick one coming up. You knocked obviously the big news around Baton Rouge is everything around the Denver Harris circus that is it's spun out of control essentially. But what can you say about him and his recruitment? Because LSU fans haven't seen him play aside from 5 games at Texas A&M. You don't have a lot of tape on him. I'd imagine that you studied him a good bit when he was in high school. What is the player that LSU is getting aside from the personality?
Yeah, I kind of who came to mind coming up from high school when Denver was starting to come up, and he was that good. I mean, everything you wanted in a player, that was Denver Harris. Lockdown, speed, physicalness, has the frame, has the size, all of those things he had. But to be honest, being here in Texas, I mean, you heard it, in high school. He was suspended a few times. There was this, there was that. And some of it was high school kid stuff. And you kind of got to weed all that out. But this whole, just everything going on with him isn't necessarily new because it's always been something kind of with Denver, even going back to high school at North Shore. I mean, I want to say he basically barely got across the finish line when it came to finishing out his senior season at North Shore. And I know in the playoffs that he was suspended for one of the games. It was kind of a deal. So I hope he gets it all figured out because he's a heck of a talent. And if he does get it figured out, he's going to be pretty special at LSU.
I hope he does because we need it. We need that cornerback depth. We hope he does. Billy, man, I appreciate your time. Before I let you go, is there a surprise recruit that could possibly happen that LSU that's not really on people's radar going into this recruiting class that maybe at the end of it you say, oh, man, that's kind of a shock, but I'm not surprised?
If I had to pick one, I would probably pick Terry Bussey, the 5-star athlete out of Houston High School. He's in East Texas. He's set to officially visit LSU next month. He's got a commitment date for right after that official visit. I have heard a ton of Texas A&M buzz that he's a silent commit there, but he wants to take an official visit. But sometimes when that happens, you never know. Things can change, and maybe he isn't feeling it as much, and you could maybe see him go LSU's way. He's got a family full of LSU fans. He's got some family from Louisiana. If there was a surprise in that sense, I could see it being Terry Bussey. I think they have kind of an uphill battle there, but they're going to host him for an official visit. He's wanted to make that happen, so you can shoot your shot and see. He'd be one of the – he would make LSU safeties class, I think, the best in the country. You'd have Deshaun McBride, Joel Rogers, who are 2 4-stars, solid 4-star prospects, guys who could very well be top 100 prospects, and then you'd have a 5-star in Terry Bussey. I would go with the surprise being Terry Bussey over anyone else unless I'm missing one off the top.
I love that. It's a 5-star. We love 5-star surprises. That'd be great. Billy, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your time. Hopefully we can have you on again as the recruiting season unfolds. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll talk to you again soon, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
Billy's the man.
Yep, a lot of good stuff happening on the recruiting front.
Got a lot of good insight on it.
A lot of good insight. A lot of good stuff happening. Obviously, recruiting never sleeps. They got a lot of stuff happening in 2026 class. That's too much for me right now. I'm glad that I'm not in charge of recruiting. That's not my job. They're doing a lot better job than I think I've done with recruiting. But it's always nice to know what you have in the pipeline and what's going to get LSU to that next level. We're watching a little bit of the Toronto-Philly game. What a Houdini act by Kevin in that first inning. He base loaded, I think, no outs or 1 out. No outs. I think he punched the guy out, then a sacrifice fly, and then got the next guy out. And only gave up 1 run. That's a win.
That it is.
That's it. Oh, it was a second inning. Second inning. My bad. See it? Bad eyes. Close enough. Did you get the? I know you bet the 0-0 in the first. Did you win that?
I didn't take it. Yeah, 2 aces. I stayed away from the. I usually take your fee, so I take a run in the first inning.
Oh.
I stay away from it, so
Yeah, of course. Duh. You did the right move.
Yeah.
Technically a win.
Yeah. Aaron looks good though. He looks like he's throwing the ball really well.
94, 95 too.
Wow, with some movement it looked like. Yeah. Aaron and Gall's been going at it right now on the TV. I don't know what channel it's on. I don't know.
MLB Network.
MLB Network. Okay, there it is.
Yeah. Major League Baseball does a great job of hiding any game that you want to
unbelievable.
watch.
But I will say
marquee
this.
matchups, ones they can really market.
I will say this, especially in this area. Like you would think, like, hey, these are two.
Not
Like,
just
why
in
don't
this
we
area, you can market this one nationally just because of not only what LSU did this year, but because they are a national brand when it comes to college baseball.
One,
that's a no-doubter.
That's a 2-run homer by Tellez. Is that Rowdy? No, not Rowdy. Definitely not Rowdy Tellez. Who was that? Oh, he's doing it a little bit right now. He's playing well. Yeah, he's playing well. They don't do it, but with that said, of them not doing a really good job of like putting these games out there, the attendance at these Major League Baseball games are up across the board. Like I think I saw a stat on Twitter. I think it was yesterday, or the day before, where there has been. I think there's been 9 games. I'm gonna misquote the stat, but there's been 9 games where there has been over 1 million fans in attendance in a weekend. Like, or 9 games or 9 weekends or whatever there's been.
Yeah.
From not counting COVID, from 19 or 20 or 21 and 22 and 19 and 20, there was only 6 such weekends.
And you're at 9 already?
And we're at 9 already this year. I probably butchered that a tad. Like Major League Baseball weekends. Yeah. That's pretty good. I think, and I could be, like I said, I could be butchering. My point in saying this is that the attendance in Major League Baseball games this year are up significantly compared to what they have been in the past. And I think that's a good thing. The money's up. Viewership is up. Great for them. I just wish it was more national. You know what I mean? Like you don't see it. You don't talk about it. ESPN barely talks about it. You know what I mean? You get the top 10 plays every now and then. But like, you know, and it's a long season. I'm sure they'll still start talking more about it in
playoff season,
October. But, you know, with that being said, they are having some success.
Attendance. There we go.
Success. But it's not baseball season. It's still baseball season, but not really baseball season. It's football
It's not really baseball season again until that calendar kind of flips to September.
Which we've talked about having the best, like, what are the best stretches in sports? To me, it is when playoff baseball is happening, NFL football is happening, and the very start of basketball season is happening.
You can't run away from it.
You have sports everywhere.
It's just called October, my birth month. This is how it goes.
That's how it works.
It's just how it goes.
That's God's gift
October,
to
the
you.
best sports month
I mean, it is.
there is.
It
It's
is.
that simple.
It is. Because, like, you're right in the middle of football season at that
disputing
point,
it,
right?
yeah.
October, it's like,
Football's
okay,
still fresh.
really, yeah.
Baseball's back into being good again because it's gotten past the middle of the down part.
Competitive.
Basketball is basically getting going right at the end of it. NHL is going it's the best sports month.
Yep, it is. It is. I love it. I love it. All right, so before we get to the Ask Mikey and Mitch segment, LSU has a scrimmage this weekend. It's a big scrimmage. It's a scrimmage that everybody goes to. It's going to be hot. Listen, we woke up this morning in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it was 77 degrees. It felt awesome. It felt like it was starting to become fall. Obviously, it's not fall. It's August. But it was just a nice little surprise. And then it got to be 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was back to 100 degrees. And the weather this weekend is going to be, I think the high is 102 or something on Saturday. No rain. But LSU has a scrimmage this weekend. This is a big scrimmage. This is the scrimmage where all the alumni get to go to. You get to actually see some stuff that's happening. It's closed to the public. The media gets to go. So, like, you're not going to see everything that they're putting in the playbook, but you're going to see these guys start to compete. I would hope to see, hopefully Denver Harris is there. I don't know if he's going to be there or not, but everybody else is going to be. I'm not sure. Is Mason Smith going to be playing this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, there's no
I know he's doing drills and stuff, but are they going to let him go out, or are they going to hold him out for another week?
No, from everything I heard from BK and his presser, it is that there's an impetus to get the starters out there, but it won't be for very long. Like, you'll see them for a couple of series, and then he's like, and we're going to turn over to the young guys. So I'd imagine Mason Smith would be in that number of, he needs a lot of reps more than anybody. He played in a year.
What do you want to see from that? Like, I mean, it's hard to get a lot out of that, but what do you want to see in this first scrimmage? And we're going to talk more about it on Friday. Hopefully have somebody, from the team or that was a former player that's going to be there that is, give some insight. But what do you want to see in the scrimmage, just especially knowing that you're not going to see a ton of starters play for a long time?
I think everybody has probably the same question marks at this point of the year where you've heard a lot about it, but this would be an opportunity to kind of see it again. The last time I feel like people got to see them kind of line up and play was the spring game, where this is kind of a spring game light where it's a little bit more competitive. People that you're actually hitting, you'll be able to see who rolls out the two deep. I think a lot of the question marks are going to come from the cornerback room. All of this smoke around Ashton Stamps and how well he's performed.
I want to see him.
I think a lot of people are going to they're building him up to be in the defense. Is not just a rotational guy, but
got some first team reps.
He's vying for a starting spot, and with the Denver Harris situation, that I don't know if they're doing that to prop him up or if he's actually legitimately earned himself a chance to get starter reps.
Well, I think with Denver out right now, he's for sure the number 3 cornerback, right behind Deuce Chestnut and who's the other transfer?
Alexander?
Yes.
I don't know if he's going to he's been rumored to be the other starter on the other side, but it feels like Deuce is definitely going to be in that spot, and then you have Sage Ryan now working in at corner. And so
which I don't know about that one.
From everything
felt
he
like
said,
he was finally settling into that spot.
And BK touched on it again today where he's like, look, Sage has had an unbelievable camp. We thought maybe we'd get him some more reps at corner just because we're thin at that spot right now. I just feel we said this one, it was either Monday or Friday, where I almost feel bad for Sage because they keep moving him around so much because he has so much potential. But from all reports, he's played well at corner, so if that's the way to get him on the field, and if he was going to be in that like nickel spot anyway, it's good for him to get reps there to get in coverage.
I agree. I want to see Toviano because I think that, obviously he's a young guy. He's a freshman. He's been moving around. He's kind of like that guy who can play a bunch of different positions. To me, he comes off as a guy who's like, hey, when you put me in there it's competing against somebody else, I'm going to win. And I want to see that because and you know it. You've played in it, right, Jared? I want you to give your opinion on this. But this is – in this scrimmage, when you know the starters aren't going to be there, the offense isn't going to be full go, like they're not going to have their entire package out there, the defense isn't going to do anything crazy. It is going to be mano-a-mano. You guard me, I'm guarding you, you try to beat me, and I'm going to win. And I think those are the situations that he feels like he's going to excel at, and you're going to kind of see him take that next jump. At least that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of those kids where he's so versatile, right, that you look at him and you're like, oh, he could probably play a little bit of this or he could also play a little bit of that. And you don't really know what you have until you actually see him in game situations and you're like, oh, wow, like it's very hard to keep him out of here because he pops when it's game time. I'm not saying he is this. I'm not saying physically he compares to this, but like if you looked at Chad Jones just standing up there, you're like, man, he's awfully big for a safety. I don't know if he can run, but obviously he can. And then as you were saying he's awfully big for a safety, you're like, I don't know, he's not big enough to be a linebacker, but he will hit you, right?
Yeah.
And so when you put him on the field in game time and you saw him run the way he did and hit the way he did and cover and have the ball skills the way he did, you're like, I don't know how to explain it, but he needs to be on the field.
Right.
It's really that simple. I know he's a big dude. You maybe don't think he can run as fast as he can. You maybe don't think he's as shifty as he is. You maybe don't think he can handle the ball the way he can. Put him on the field and watch it go in the game. And I think Toviano's got those same kind of qualities, if you will. I'm not saying it's the same size. I'm not saying it plays the same way. I think he's got those same kind of qualities.
I agree. And what I want to see is
long ass arms, 77-inch wingspan.
Right, and that's huge as a cornerback, right?
Really
that's like you have a lot. They call it. You can make it like makeup speed. You can make a mistake and catch up because you're so fast. But they also have
maybe you don't catch up. You just throw the go gadget on.
Exactly. You also have a longer wingspan where you may be beat by a step, but I'm not really beat because I have that wingspan to get there. And I think that is a huge thing. I think for me, going into this weekend, I want to see. Everybody's gonna say, "Oh, I want to watch the offense, right? Like I want to see the receivers make all these plays and the quarterbacks throw all this ball, all this stuff." Of course, everybody wants to see that. I'm on the opposite end of it. I want to see the defense dominate because there's a couple reasons why. One, you're not gonna have the full offense isn't gonna be in display. Like they're not gonna do a lot of creative stuff. They're not gonna do now. If it was closed to the public or it was closed to the media, maybe, but it's not. It's open, so you don't want anybody coming out there seeing everything that you've been working on. So it's not going to be super complex offense. You're not going to see a lot of defensive schemes where they're trying to trick the offense to be able to get to the quarterback. So what it's going to be guys competing against each other athletically, like mano a mano, right? And if the defense is they're making those plays and they're in a position to win those, I think that's a great sign moving forward, especially because you know that, hey, worst case scenario, I can put them in the base simple thing, and I know that they're going to go out there and they're going to compete and they're going to win against somebody who's super talented. And I think that goes a long way moving forward, especially when you start putting in schemes and you putting them in positions to succeed. Now, I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know. So I'm sure, you know, the quarterbacks will struggle and somebody will say, oh, my God, the offense looked terrible, and, like, miss me with that. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you want to go on the offensive side, obviously you have a lot of running backs, so I'm interested to see not only who plays whatever, but the packaging that they use on the offensive end with the amount of weapons they have at wide receiver, with the laundry list of backs they have. Like, how do they kind of group everybody together? Because you know what you have in Mason Taylor, but then you throw in a Pimpton. I want to see how they use them at the same time. Chris Hilton comes back. He was clocked at 23.5 miles an hour at practice. So
is that fast?
He feels like he could break it's the speed limit. So it feels like he's almost – that's a very positive sign for somebody that's an absolute burner, that you feel like finally is healthy. And
he looks like – I mean, there's been a lot of buzz around him. He's been making a lot of plays in camp, which I think is a huge thing.
Malik.
Yeah, of course. And they say he's like even every day he brings it, which I think is huge, right? When your leader is doing that and your guy who's supposed to be the guy is doing that,
it's
like
a lot of
that
big Jarvis energy.
What's that?
He's got big Jarvis energy.
Yeah, like
Jarvis
that
Landry,
I love.
Like, I'm coming to compete. It's
right.
No bullshit every day.
Maybe some people may think it's too intense. No. I love that, right? I want to see the linebackers, right? I want to see the young guys that are coming in that are trying to vie for some playing time in the linebacker position. I want to see Spates. I want to see he's got now. You're probably not going to see a ton of him, but there's other guys that are trying to get reps in that position. At that position, I think like they have an opportunity to show what they can do when they're starting to compete. Because in practice, one thing. When you put the pads on, you're going up against someone else, even if it's your own team and you're competing like that, that brings a different level of energy, and I want to see that too.
See a whole lot of the Weeks brothers.
That too.
I mean, I'm just looking to see a very clean, crisp, well-run, both sides of the ball, well-run units kind of going out there, not really making mistakes, being able to make the right calls, the right checks, being able to be in the right spots, being able to have the right amount of people on the field and off the field, and being able to get in and out of
play clock,
personnel groupings and all of that stuff. To me, that's what these dress rehearsals are about, not if Mason's ready and how he can do this and all this other shit. That really doesn't matter. That's what they've done all this other practice and stuff for. This is a dress rehearsal to be able to not have coaches on the field, to be able to do all this stuff that you need to do when Saturday night comes, well, really Sunday night to open the year for them. When that comes, that's what these situations are for. Yep. So, like, that's what, when I see these, that's what I'm kind of looking for, I could really care less kind of who pops. Like, I remember last year we were there and we saw, I remember seeing it being like, I think Mason Taylor's going to play a lot.
He's
going to be a big player for him, right? That's kind of what you see. Those young guys who have nothing proven, those are the guys you kind of see get a chance to shine in these situations. But as far as for, like, the rest of this thing, I just want to see a clean operation. That lets me know where we need to be. Because if you can get a clean operation and it's not Jaden Daniels out there running the entire show, and it's not Mason out there playing the entire game, that lets me know they believe those guys are done enough. These guys are being able to do this. We are in a good spot. That's what I want to see.
No doubt. I'm with you. Before we get to the Ask Mikey and Mitch segment, which is coming on, unless you got something else unless you want to add something.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, because you want to see a clean, like you said, a clean operation, especially obviously with the special teams debacles that you had last year. You want to see that cleaned up.
I want to see that clean too, for sure.
Where you just see who's going to go out there. We were watching it last year, and you saw, I mean, as much as you don't want to say it, you saw Malik Neighbors drop a bunch of punts whenever he was practicing. So it was on their mind. They knew it was something that could have happened. Obviously, it comes at a terrible time in the Florida State game where he drops 2. They miss a field goal and get an extra point blocked. Not a great showing from the special teams, I would say, as it cost you the game. But on the other end, if you get that to where it's just 50% better, you feel like LSU can kind of make some noise and get better in that regard. So I want to see, like you said, clean things, because if you kind of got some of the same thing from Hard Knocks last night, where you see them go and do a joint practice with the Panthers, and you see Saleh come up to and goes, "Oh, we're not ready yet." Like, we needed that. to kind of see. We know what we
And
look like
they got
against each
ready.
other, and it's like we need to ramp it up a little bit. And LSU is in that same, but you're 2 weeks away. Like you don't have a lot of time. If they're not in a clean operation, that would be not the best thing that you have to see because it's almost too late to fix that at this point. You would start working on install and getting game ready.
Well, it's not too late to fix it.
Yeah,
it just
you
doesn't.
just hope it would be
it doesn't
fixed by
make you.
now.
It doesn't make you feel like when you open the season against a top 10 team that they'll be clicking on all cylinders. Now, at the end of the day, I could really care less if we're clicking on all cylinders in week 1, as long as you find a way to get the W. But it doesn't. When you open the season with a real opponent, doesn't really make you feel like, oh, we got this handled. If you're not clicking on all
Absolutely,
cylinders
and you
that
saw
way.
what happened the next day after the Jets looked like that, right? They went back and they fixed it, and it was kind of like, hey, okay, you got to either figure it out or not figure it out, right? And sometimes you need that kick in the ass to try to push yourself forward, right? Hopefully they don't look.
And
LSU doesn't look bad, but like if it's
but
not
see,
perfect, that's not bad. That's not the worst.
Like you're bringing the reference to the Jets, and in that situation, honestly, that's the side of it I would rather see.
Exactly.
Something where you're just getting your ass whipped.
Yep.
And now I can come to you and challenge you. It's different though if it's we can't make checks, we can't make calls, we can't communicate. That's a mess.
The mental
That's
side
not
of
where
it's
you
way
wanna
different
be.
than the physical side.
If you
Physical
just getting
side's
whipped,
effort.
That's fine.
I can check you because I probably got you in this building for a reason. So if you're truly not good enough to do it, then it's not your fault anyway.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, but if I got you in this building, I probably believe that you can do it. So if you're just getting whipped, that's a completely different story. I would much rather being able to watch the tape and challenge you and check you on that than having to check you on you just literally not knowing what to do. That's a tough spot to be in.
No doubt.
This close to the start of the year.
I'm interested to see how, obviously, with the way that they've practiced lately and it being a little bit ultra competitive and some scrums breaking out. I wonder if that's going to spill over into when you ramp up the intensity again. If that is an everyday thing, or if they've got that kind of closed a little bit.
That's a closed door practice thing. I think these guys kind of get the feel of this is a dress rehearsal. This is football.
Yeah.
Play football. I don't think you'll see that.
It's not against a different team. It's their own. Like if it like.
Oh, I know
in
that's
Hard
what I'm
Knocks.
saying,
Like they're always gonna have fights when you have joint practice. Like I'm willing to bet that if every teams that have had joint practices, out of all those teams, probably 90% of those practices,
Somebody
or at
gets
least
into
one of those
something.
practices in that week, ends in a fight. Like there's a fight.
I'm willing to bet that if
Maybe more than that.
I'm willing to bet even if you looked at like NFL games, if they played preseason games and it was to no audience and it wasn't televised, you'd see a ton of fights all over those as well. You know what I mean? Like that's just what that environment is. And then once everybody knows that the red light's on the camera, you kind of clean up the act. Now, as you go through the season, boys get tired of each other.
No doubt.
Jawing gets even more, and sometimes that spills on, right? But that's kind of how that kind of goes. You know?
Yeah. But I do want to see them be aggressive. Like I want to see them go out there, fly around, just have fun. You know what I mean? Like play football.
And I'll add to this too, when it comes to like the joint practices and honestly just real practices, when there's no actual tackling and taking you to the ground, you just kind of thud, and we're kind of some dudes, the lines get blurred of how you finish plays. And some guys play a little more aggressively. Some guys let up earlier than other guys let up, and now one guy's getting thrown to the ground when the other guy thought the play was done. That's where fights usually end up starting. And fortunately, when you actually have a game situation and there's tackling to the whistle, that kind of gets cleaned up.
Yep.
And it's just off of something.
Everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. I know the play's over because the whistle blew. Not I know the play's over because I think I did enough. And
Sack.
Yeah.
Yeah, sack. 11 of them. 12 sacks.
Yes,
Before we move on to the Ask Mikey and Mitch segment, that interview with Billy Embody brought to you by our friends at EVCO. EVCO Development is a civil engineering company, civil construction company, based out of Lafayette. They specialize in site drainage, site utilities, earthwork, site clearing, house pads, ponds, demo work, and hurricane cleanup. We're about to get to the peak of hurricane season. Hopefully, hurricane season just skates around from us and just doesn't come here. And but you know, if you get
hopefully,
some wind,
I got down the rabbit hole yesterday. Something on my TikTok account. I didn't like what I saw. Something that's not gonna really mention it. Didn't like it.
They look. These people who are like these meteorologists. No, greatest job ever because you don't have to be right ever. And they're talking about the percentages of like hurricane season. Like, oh, it's supposed to be a big season with named storms, right? There's gonna be a lot more named storms this year because of what's happening and the heat and the water.
The same video I saw.
All this kind of thing. But they said there's probably going to be, I think they said like 30-something percent or 40-something percent of like tropical storms.
Big percent, guys.
But 17% of hurricanes. So like we'll turn into hurricanes. So,
You know, 80% of the stats you hear are usually false.
Probably. I have no idea what any of this
believe
means. I'm just hoping that nothing hits. But if something does happen and you need some help with the cleanup, our friends at FCO Development are your guys. Give them a call at 337-534-4675. Again, that number is 337-534-4675. And now we are on to Ask Mikey and Mitch, which is brought to you by Heineken.
First one up, Ask Mikey and Mitch from our guy Fonz Ferrelli.
Fonz.
There he is.
Fonz. Hey.
He's a butcher.
Huh?
He said his real job, he's a butcher.
I love that.
He said he had some blood on his hands. Like, should you? Oh. First one up. Did they change the ruling on pitcher's balks? Because it seems the pitcher can step more towards home and start to move to the plate and still throw the ball to the base, or am I wrong? Feels like the line's been blurred with balks for a long time now.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
I mean, I think they did change the rule, but they didn't change it
Not that.
way.
Yeah.
They went, made it harder easier to call a balk. I don't think umpires understand balk sometimes. So you can call a balk, you can not call a balk. There's a big gray area there.
There is.
Especially when the lefty has a good move, and it's a lot of balks, but they don't call them, and I'd like them to. So I think they changed the rule to make balks less frequent.
Yeah.
They actually made it more frequent because that Gauze had to change the
toe tap.
he sets. He sets again. He sets again.
Third time.
Sets again. And now he's ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with him. I don't know if they really changed it, but the lines, to me, in my mind, have always been blurred.
Just ask Ty Floyd.
And they have not been very runner/hitter friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Just is what it is. So I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Next one up. What's your best memory of your best shit talking? Who was it against?
So me
What
talking
fan
shit or
base?
someone talking shit to me?
Yes. Your best memory of your best shit talking, you giving it to somebody, but you can go either way with it. And that the worst thing or the best thing you've gotten.
So
Who's
okay.
it against, and what fan base is the best to chirp back?
So I never fancied myself a shit talker. Like I just never thought that I was a big shit talker. But apparently in high school football, people that I've played against said that I talked a bunch of shit. I don't remember that.
Oh.
Maybe it was just a heat of the moment. But that was high school. That's a little different. Professionally, probably professionally, I guess the best thing that I did, now that fan base that will talk the most shit, I mean, the Yankees fans talked a ton of shit. I liked Fenway. They talked a bunch of shit, but they're funny. Like really funny. So whenever you would do something good and they give you props for it, they would say something funny. I was hey, that's really good. The aggravating ones are the ones that you hate listening to because they just say the same shit. They're not creative. They're not funny. I guess my best response to a shit talker was I was in AAA my last year. It was the last series of the year. We were in Memphis. We were ready to go home, and this group of guys,
hell yeah,
were behind home plate, and they just kept wearing me out because I was older, and so they just whatever, and I hit a 435-foot home run to left center field, deep left center field, and I came around, I said something, I blew him a little kiss.
Oh, nice.
I hit home plate, and I was I don't ever do that, and I'm well. Why? I mean,
This is earned.
At 31 years old, why do I need to do this?
Yeah.
That was it.
Too old to be doing this.
Yeah. In the minor leagues.
Yeah. I'm really not one to really talk the shit back, if you will. I'll acknowledge it, and if you keep going, I kind of get into it. But I've never really been in situations to where people were in a situation where they just were relentlessly going, and it made sense for them to relentlessly go. The majority of the time over my career, if something like that happened, there was somewhere along there I was able to kind of shut it up. Luckily, so whatever. I guess Mikey mentioned before there was a time in South Carolina in college that was pretty good on my side, but that one, I don't really want to tell that story. The most memorable one I've ever had, I legitimately can tell you right now, I can't say it on air because it really was that ridiculous what was said to me, but it's the most memorable one by far. But I guess the one that I could probably bring up if I were to really bring one up right now, I guess, would have to be, so I'm pretty sure Mikey's played here, and it was kind of like my welcome to professional baseball too. Apparently he's still there too, but in West Virginia, at their low A place, think it was low A at the time, was the Pirates low A was in West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia. That team has a heckler there named the Toast Man.
This is his gig?
Oh, like every single home game they play, he sits 2 rows behind home plate, right on top of the on-deck circle for the visiting team. And if you strike out, he will literally burn toast and throw them to fans. So, like, when you get up to the plate,
how's he doing this?
They let him literally hook into there's
He's
an
got a
outlet right
toaster?
there. Yeah,
My
like
guy.
legit had a
baseball,
toaster.
buddy.
Literally has a toaster. So I didn't know anything about him, right? I get there, I'm on deck. This guy's wearing me out, and I could just hear him, bro. I'm like, there's not enough people there for you to not hear him, right? You can hear every word he's saying, and even when you get up to bat, you can hear every word he's saying. So lo and behold, I don't know it at the time, right? I think I struck out, grounded out, some shit my first at bat, right? Second at bat, I come back up there, I'm on deck. Actually, I struck out my first bat. Now I do actually remember. I struck out, but here's the best part. You get 1 strike, obviously he gets the crowd going saying something. You get the 2 strikes, I shit you not, at the plate, I am smelling burnt toast already. Like I'm smelling toast getting burnt already. Strike out, lo and behold, he starts throwing the toast and the whole crowd goes crazy, right? My next at bat, I'm on deck. Now, this is when it got crazy because this is like my welcome to Pro Bowl. I didn't realize you get all these stats where people actually care this much about some of the stuff, which is funny to me. But, like, he's on deck, and it's, he had already been talking about family and, knowing your girlfriend and knowing all this stuff. And now he goes, I tell you what, for a first-round pick, he was like, you're 2 for your last 22. And I thought to myself, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I thought I was doing all right recently. So, like, that was the first one. I'm like, oh, goddamn, I didn't know you knew all that. So, yeah, that's probably the most, like, memorable one. And it was pretty much, like, right when I got into Pro Bowl. It was pretty funny.
I mean, how do you land on Toast Man? Like, I know what
Toast
I want
Man.
to do at the games.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts.
I'm bringing my toaster. You
So
understand
that's
the
a
deal
real
with it.
that's a real thing. Like, that's actually going on in America.
Good for him. He found his niche.
He enjoys it. He loves it. What do you got?
Next one up. Unlimited money. What part of the U.S. would you live? Or if not in the U.S., where would you want to live?
Unlimited money.
I'll go first. Well, unlimited money means I'm probably not just in one place.
Yeah, multiple places.
Probably got multiple places. So with that being said, having ties and being in Louisiana, being from Louisiana, I actually love Louisiana. I always want to have something to do with Louisiana. I love the state. I love the people here. And I love the culture here. But would love to be able to pop over to a couple other big cities. Maybe, unlimited money we're talking. Why don't I go coast to coast? Why don't I go somewhere maybe in California? Maybe why don't I go somewhere in New York? Maybe why don't I go somewhere in Miami? Maybe why don't I go somewhere in Idaho? No, I'm not doing that.
Pop down to
Probably
middle America.
Yeah, I probably pop a couple places. Maybe I go somewhere overseas somewhere. You just never know.
So, unlimited money, I would have a home base here in Louisiana for all the reasons you said, right? Like, I love it here. I would have a house on the water, beachfront property in San Diego. Badass place. I would also have a private, unlimited money. I'd have my private plane out there in San Diego with me so that I can fly to my other house that I bought on an island.
Epstein Island?
Somewhere. No. Wow. Easy. Not that.
It's for sale.
I don't want any part of that. There's a lot of demons out there.
I think so.
Yeah, do not want any of that. I would have my little island that I would develop into a really cool
McDonald's
I'd put a badass golf course on there. Unlimited money, so it doesn't matter. I'd buy I had a badass golf course on there, and then I would have like my house, and I'd have probably like 5 or 6 other ones that I would build out there for everyone to come and let's just have good old time.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Can't beat that.
Just put me down in Lake Tahoe, and you'll never see from me again, except for the golf tournament once a year.
There you go. I love that. All right.
Next one up. What is your favorite football uniform combo, or which combo would you love to see for LSU?
I'm not good at that.
I like the white, but I don't want to see it like all white.
Yeah, right.
But I don't want to see it like
all the time,
5 times a year.
Yeah, right.
What I don't like is, or what I would rather actually see is them wear purple and gold at home way more than they do. Instead of wearing white at home, and then obviously you wear white on the road.
Yeah.
So purple only gets worn in the non-conference home games. I would like to see them wear purple at home way more.
I think you're getting to see a little bit more of that purple, but it's the combination of not with the gold pants. It's
Well,
the purple,
white. LSU literally has a rule. It's white at home unless it's a non-conference home game. Well, that only ends up being 3 to 4 times a year. I don't even think it's that many. It's
Not-
like 3
yeah,
times
yeah.
a year, maybe.
Yeah.
I would actually like to see them wear that more.
I'm not good at this. I mean, I agree. I mean, I just
Yeah, they don't have that many combinations, but he was like going down the rabbit hole of like you can put together like the pro combo
I'm not good enough
helmets
at that.
with
I'm not good
yeah,
enough at that.
play Madden and put them all together.
Yeah, I'm not good enough at that. I'm a visual guy. I can't. I
have to
gotta
see
see
it?
it, and I gotta put it. Yeah. So sorry.
It's all right. I do wish they would bring back the old tradition against Arkansas, where they wore the purple sleeves every last home game. I think is versus Arkansas when this is like mid 2000s, where like on senior day they'd always wear like the purple sleeves. I always thought it was cool, like a cool little insider tradition if you went to a bunch of the games, but kind of fell off.
All right.
Next one up. What are your thoughts on Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman with other players like Drake May, Jordan Travis, and Caleb Williams in the mix? I know it's very early to be talking Heisman. Just curious to know your thoughts. From Popcorn on LSU.
I think he's got a lot of a really good chance. Like my early thoughts are, I think he is right where he needs to be. And as far as like the preseason Heisman hype, look, Drake May is obviously really talented. I think Jordan Travis is really talented. I think you're gonna obviously see Jaden and Jordan play against each other in that first game. And obviously you have the reigning Heisman Trophy and Caleb Williams. So Caleb's up first, number one in the preseason Heisman favorites, right? But the way the schedule sets up for LSU and Jaden Daniels, if he goes out there and he continues to progress and be the guy that we saw last year plus some, I think he's going to have a leg up, and then he's going to have a head-to-head with Jordan Travis the first game of the season. So, that's going to go into it. So I don't think that the Heisman hype is unwarranted. I think it's definitely real. He's going to have to go out there and play it and then do it. It's hard to win the Heisman. But I think for me, it's Caleb Williams because he already did it. And maybe Drake May, but I think someone else around the country is going to pop up in it and be, one of the guys. I don't know who it's going to be, but there's always going to be somebody that wasn't in the preseason deal that kind of makes a run at it. But I think he has a real good chance.
Yeah, I think when you play the SEC schedule outside of somehow, some way having a team group that is absolutely historically dominant on the defensive side of the ball, especially in today's form of football, there will be an offensive player that emerges on a really good team in the SEC as a Heisman candidate, right? You saw it kind of emerging for Jaden Daniels towards the back stretch of the year last year. So with that being said, if they're taking care of business and the offensive side of the ball is playing well, I don't think it's hype. I think it's actual really possible for it to happen. With that being said, obviously he's not the favorite, but yeah, it's 100% a possibility.
And I think the Caleb Williams fatigue of him winning it last year probably plays in Jaden Daniels' favor too. They don't want to give it to the same guy 2 years in a row, and
Right.
I think it's pretty obvious that.
So they don't, but I do think they also
he's deserving of it.
I think they
Right.
also are clamoring for the first one to ever do it if he's deserving.
No.
Archie Griffin.
Archie, since Archie,
Yeah.
to do it if he's actually able to do it.
Right.
But they're not just gonna anoint you that if you don't deserve it.
Right. Especially being
Yeah.
two-time.
Yeah.
All right.
Sneaky pick. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame,
Yeah.
plus 1,800, and also Marvin Harrison Jr., plus 1,800.
Tough for a receiver to do.
I know, but listen to everybody he listed. They're all quarterbacks. It's a quarterback award now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you had Devonta Smith win it
Used
as
to be
a
a
wide
running
receiver.
back award.
Yeah,
Quarterback, running back, but
Ron Dane,
yeah. Ricky Williams
Ricky Williams, Richie Bush doesn't count.
should count.
Should count.
Ask him, what former LSU football player had the best high school highlight reel you've
This
ever
is
seen?
going to get us down a rabbit hole.
That's fine.
What former LSU player had the best highlight?
I have a couple in mind right now. There's more than I'm probably thinking of. Obviously, Chad's high school highlight film
It's unbelievable.
was
It's
ridiculous.
borderline murder.
Russell Shepard's was pretty outrageous when he came here. But early it's hard because the
You didn't
film's
really have
back.
it.
Yeah,
Well, you couldn't watch
Yeah.
from coast to coast pretty much.
right.
Highlight film.
So I'm going back from 2008.
I got one. I'll see if you actually name
until
this person.
now I'm trying to think of some crazy, Patrick Peterson's was really good, but something that was damn, this guy is different.
And that's where you that if Jamarcus Russell had a huddle, that would be absurd to see what he did in high school football. I'd imagine it was holy shit, you have to come see this guy play in person.
Yeah.
But you don't have the same quality of what these kids have now, to where it's kind of harder to pick the guys that you know are good. I mean, Allie Broussard in high school is unbelievable.
It's a good one.
Keelan Williams in high school.
Keelan Williams.
Boom! That was the one I was naming, dude. Listen.
You scared the shit out of me,
Me and Keelan came in here and we played together here. So, like, it's not like I didn't
know.
Yeah, it's not like I didn't know, but
Actually,
I also showed up. I think we were.
You'll respect this next one I'm going to say, too.
I think we're actually done. I think this was my junior year. So I think it was either my junior year or if it was my senior year, we were not playing that same night or we had just lost out, so it was the next week. But they actually played a playoff game. Northside High School played a playoff game at, guess who? St. Thomas More.
Oh, I was at the game.
At St. Thomas
I
More.
was a freshman.
And Keelan Williams literally looked like a grown man playing with kids, playing running back.
Freezing cold, rainy, 2 overtimes. Keelan Williams ran for like 250-something yards and 4 touchdowns. The safety at STM at the time was a sophomore. He almost broke Kevin Falk's record for interceptions. He had like 11. Grant Fleming.
Yep.
He had offers to play around. He ended up playing at UL. He was running downhill, and Keelan Williams running this way.
And Grant's no small guy.
He's 6'3", 6'4", like he was a big dude. And they hit each other, and this was the one time that I was like, damn, nobody won that one.
Yeah,
like,
good on good.
They hit it, and they both went this way. And I was like, oh, my God. That was the first time I realized, like, damn, Grant's, like, the real deal. And then Keelan ended up running for, like, 4 touchdowns. They won. STM had beat them earlier, and then that took them to the state championship game. I was on the sidelines as a freshman because freshmen weren't allowed to play. And so then I had to, like, play safety in practice and then that was not fun. That was a tackling dummy. It was not cool.
So, yeah, I remember actually – and then obviously I saw highlight film of him too, like around that time. But, like, being in that game did it for me because I was like,
damn.
Man, I think we probably going to the same school. And what the fuck is that?
Yeah. It was unbelievable, dude. It was crazy. Now, somebody I want to add to it, and you can completely say yes, is Early Doucette, dude.
Well, that's another one I could throw out there.
Early Doucette was like –
his basketball tape's unreal, too.
It's not even – that was unreal, but, like, dude, it was like –
I saw Early do some unbelievable stuff, like basketball-wise, but so my freshman year, Early was still the quarterback.
Biggest catch you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, he was still the quarterback at St. Martinville. Now, mind you, my freshman year through the middle of October, I was still 13 years old. Somehow they decided it was a good idea for me to start on the varsity team at corner. So I said, you know what? Let's strap this thing on. Let's go ahead
Let's
and
do
get
it, Coach.
So here we are playing the Early Doucette St. Martinville Tigers, who were
Mom dropped you
unbelievable
off
at that time, right? And I can remember it was like my welcome to like varsity football. It wasn't Early that hit me. Now Early, I'm trying to make tackles, whatever. But Early was unbelievable, right? But they had this big ass running back too, right? And I can remember they pulled a guard one time, and it's the guard and the running back, and we're in like a cover too, obviously. So as playing as the corner, I'm run support.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. So they pull the guard and the running back, and the guard's running right at me, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, it's either me or you, cuz. And it ain't gonna be me, but it was me. And so like I tried to hit him low. I hit him, and I think he just fell right on top of me, and our defensive tackle was like chasing the run at the same time, and he tried to make the tackle, and they both like fell on me, and I'm the bottom of the pile, and I just remember being like, bro, where am I right now? What just happened? I don't know what's going on. I got 2 huge bodies on me. The running back is 20 yards down the field. I can't keep doing this because it's not for me, right?
13 years old.
It was Early so he was in our district, right? So we watched him play all the time. So he would play quarterback 85% of the time at this time, and then when they would get close to the goal line, they would put him at receiver, and they had their other quarterback was actually pretty decent. He ended up playing quarterback. He was pretty like all district or whatever. He would just throw these balls up, and Early would just go up there and just you could put the entire defense on him, and he'd just go up and jump and catch it. Nobody could jump with him. It was the most impressive thing I've ever seen.
I'm not kidding you. I saw Early
jumped over a 6'9" guy in basketball and dunked on him.
The guy he's talking about, no, not that guy. I actually saw him.
Is it Bo? It was Bo.
No, it was Perry.
No, the guy he dunked on. I thought you were talking about the other quarterback.
No. I was gonna say I actually saw him in basketball. I'm not kidding. Like I'm not exaggerating this. This is literally what happened. At my high school, St. Martinville came and played my high school, Westgate High School. Early's playing. They still had Daryl Mitchell on the team at the time. St. Martinville was
good,
very, very good.
Loaded.
Like very, very good, right? Early dunked over a dude. He missed the dunk, got the foul call, back iron the dunk, but Early's last step was on the block outside of the paint. And he jumped over someone's head to try to dunk it. And they called the foul, and he goes, so half the gym left. He said, that's all I needed to see, bro.
That's what I came here for.
That's all. I'm going. I'm leaving. They got no shot to win this game. I'm out. Because we had a pretty good basketball team at the time, too. Nope, not no more.
Yep. I mean, I could keep going down the list. That's a rabbit hole. That
Yeah,
you keep going down. But.
Just another one to throw, like the 2 cents in. Trenton Holiday's high school highlight tape is unbelievable.
So I've heard. Yeah, I would imagine. A little rabbit running around everywhere.
But he was like running between the tackles and like lowering his shoulder into people. I was like, oh, Trenton's a better running back because I always saw him at he's a gadget guy at LSU, and then you saw him in high school. It's like, oh, he was getting like 25 touches a game. And
fastest guy on the field.
Yeah, but he was running between the tackles, and he was doing it.
Yeah, of course.
And one guy I saw play in person that was awesome. Didn't go to LSU, but Joe McKnight. I saw him in the Dome, and he ran.
He had
was special too.
He had a great.
RIP.
I mean, he was.
RIP.
Joe McKnight was supposed to be. RIP. He was supposed to be the next Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
He had a good career over there. He wasn't as good as Reggie's, but like same type of running back.
Yep.
Yeah, do it all.
Yeah.
It actually looked like him in a uniform too.
Yeah. They're before their time. Reggie and Joe, if they were in the offenses now.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right. Last one up. Asking them, do you feel like we put too much in what stars someone is with recruiting? Because we've had a lot of 3 and 4 stars turn out to be monsters. Absolutely. I mean,
look, do I think that they put too much stock into it? No. But I think that you look into the stars, and the stars don't mean everything. Like, do you put too much stock? No. Like, these guys are talented. These guys are bigger. They're faster. Like in high school, like that's one thing. But I think there's more to it than just that. I think you look at the intangible stuff, the makeup. How is this guy with his other teammates? Did he go to his birthday party? Those types of things. That was a joke.
Did he? Yeah. You open up the DVD.
Those types of things. Like, is it too much stock? Maybe. I get why they do it, and I get that, like, look, a lot of these things are – but I think that it goes to, hey, this guy's talented. Maybe he's a little overlooked. Let's develop him. There's still talent there. So, I think that you should look past it sometimes, but overhyped maybe a little bit.
I'm going to go with no, it's not too overlooked, right? Like, to me, a 5-star guy is like the equivalent to a first-round pick somewhere. They're obviously rated that for a reason. The problem is, at the end of the day, is you whether they're 5-star, 2-star, or whatever it is – when they get on campus, you still have to develop them.
Right.
Because it is a different level of what they're doing, right? And when you don't develop them or you didn't do a good enough job evaluating their personality to where they don't match, to where you can't get through to them, then that's where the problem is. So like you said, there still has to be a personality fit, right? There still has to be the aptitude to learn to kind of keep going. That matters as well because you can't just go off of sheer talent.
Right.
Right? Like that's going to usually by the time you get to this level, but that's going to now go to the wayside.
And some of these guys that come in as lower recruits, right, it's not because they're not talented, right? Like Tyrann Mathieu was super talented in high school. He's just undersized and probably a little overlooked because of that, right? Like, because I played with a bunch of guys and against a bunch of guys that were really good talent-wise, but like they got the most out of their talent. Maybe they were undersized. Maybe they weren't going to grow. Some of these guys say, okay, we're going to take a chance on you, and then they develop and they grow. Like Justin Jefferson, like he was pretty good. He could run routes. He had great hands. He kind of had the ability to get open. He wasn't a burner. Then he got to LSU, gained some weight, got faster, got stronger, and he developed, right? And so, sometimes you see that. Like it's not the recruiting websites or the analysts' fault that they're 2 or 3 stars. They just developed later.
Yeah, and they're going off of what they see
right
currently at the time. Like you can even go with somebody like Dak Prescott, like where LSU wanted him to be a tight end off of what they saw at the time. Somebody else said, hey, I like what he is, even though he's a whatever star rated quarterback. I think I can turn him into something. He had a want to continue playing quarterback. That ends up being a guy who, like I said, if you have the aptitude to learn and kind of keep going, who ends up developing later.
Pat White. Everybody wanted Pat White to be a cornerback. Yeah. He ended up being, an All-American quarterback. You know what I mean? So just never know. So, yeah.
Jamar Chase.
Stars mean a lot, but you still have to do the work once they show up.
Right.
Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, and a lot of for what it's worth its salt, for what I've seen, like 5-star guys, a lot of it is going off of the size almost of what they look like in high school, how it projects to the next level. If you're 6'3", 210 pounds in high school, you can probably play a little bit, and they're like, oh, he looks the part. He might get bigger, put on more muscle. It's like this is what 5-stars look like. It's very rare that it's not somebody that's pretty much fully developed out of high school. It's not a 5-star.
I mean,
Great.
Yeah, you have to physically.
A lot of them look the part.
Physically look the part as well, but if you look, part of looking the part too is also being able to run, maybe being able to jump, maybe being able to do some of these things. So like I said, the stars mean a lot because that means there is the abilities there, but it's not the end all be all. It's never that.
And one more from Morgan Mitchell. Ask Jared
Hey.
about the best bench clearing brawl he's ever been a part of.
About the what?
Best bench clearing brawl he's ever been a part of.
I've never been in any of those, so I don't know anything about that. Take that, girl.
I've been in one.
Mikey's been in a good one.
I didn't swing. I didn't swing at any of them, but I was in there. I was dragging people off the pile.
A little crowd control.
Mikey was trying to tackle a D tackle.
A little sore. I had some sore lats at the next day.
The best bench clearing brawl. Wow.
Put you on the spot there.
I don't know. Actually, I've been in one that was actually crazy. She thinks I know which one she's thinking of. Probably the best one I've ever been in, though, which I really wasn't a huge part of. It actually spilled over into the dugouts too.
Oh God!
It was in Jacksonville in AA. It got absolutely nuts there. It was
I feel like a bench clearing brawl in like AA, single A, triple A. It's more real than it is in the big leagues. It's like, no, we actually do want to fight.
I mean, they kind of both are. It just depends on the situation. But I'll never forget too. At that one, I had a fan literally who had like his 6-year-old son, like 3 rows up, like dog cussing me with the kid right next to him, like after night. And I looked at him. I was like, "You're a good role model, dude. Like this is good for your kid."
This kid's gonna be
he
a
just kind of
menace.
looked at me and he was like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro. Like what's wrong with you?"
You think your kid's not learning from you right now?
Yeah, exactly. So
I want him to be like this.
that was honestly probably the best one. You know, at the time, I want to say Yelich was in the outfield. I want to say Real Muto was behind the plate for him still at the time. Like
They're stacked. You had there's someone else there too, Ozuna.
I think
was
it was
Ozuna not there.
No, he wasn't there. But I think it was right before Austin actually got there too. Like right before Austin was there, before he was traded and moved there. Trying to remember who else they had. Oh no, he had already gone up, but that year Marisnik was there as well. But he had already gotten called up. But yeah, it was nuts. It was wild.
That's
All right.
Mikey and Mitch.
That's the Ask Mikey and Mitch. Appreciate all the questions. We will continue to do that every week on Wednesday. We are now ready for our seggies. First seggy of the day is
Mistake of the day.
Mistake of the Day, which is brought to you by our friends at Doe's Eat Place. If you've never been to Doe's, we talk about it a lot. You should go. Try it out because they have some serious food over there. I mean, go there for lunch, maybe a Friday lunch where like you can have a short day back to work. You don't have to go back. If you don't want to really go there for lunch, you can go for dinner. They have some great steaks. So go give it a shot. Doe's Eat Place on Government Street. Great environment, great place to be. Go check it out. But Mistake of the Day is brought to you by Doe's Eat Place.
Yeah, if you go to Doe's, just make sure you go home after because you're gonna have leftovers. That's the wisdom I will impart to you. You don't want to be because you will not finish your steak. It's too big. It's too good. Bring it home.
Nice.
Run home.
Nice. Run home.
Run home. And speaking of home, Vanderbilt is struggling at the moment to finish construction. They are now 10 days away from a home opener at Vanderbilt, and this is currently what their stadium looks like. They have waved the white flag and said it won't be ready. So y'all can stop. Y'all quit asking. Y'all can make fun of us all you want. That's their stadium. They're doing renovations that will be ready in 2025.
Wow, back there.
So they, like I said, waved the white flag. They no longer want to hear about it they don't want it trending on Twitter anymore. They have said, look, it's just, we fudged up. Stadium's not going to be ready. And so this is what Vanderbilt football will look like, a glorified high school for the remaining, I guess, year and a half.
Wow.
They're just going to play in it.
Wow.
And keep construction.
How do you mess that up?
That shows how little they care about football. And that stadium is a dump.
That's tough. That's tough tickets in the SEC.
It's not like Vanderbilt doesn't have the money.
You're right.
You know that they don't have a softball team or a gymnastics team?
Did not know that.
I didn't even know that was legal.
I mean, you can't afford it. You know what I mean?
Vanderbilt has a very big endowment.
I understand, but you have budgeting for the athletic department. You know what I mean? Like,
What happened to Title IX?
I mean, I'm sure they have women's sports, like enough women's sports to
They have a bowling team.
Tough.
Tough ticket.
So that's a good mistake. You gotta know better than that. You gotta
You gotta play it a little bit better.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, our next segment is Curtain Call, which is brought to you by our friends at Assured Partners. For all your insurance needs, call us, me, and Frankie.
Okay.
Call Jared.
We do a lot of good work over there. Give us a shot. All right, you got one?
Lloyd, go first.
Mine is what's currently happening right now. We have Kevin Gosman and Nola pitching again against each other. I think that's the first matchup of LSU pitchers since like the early '80s with Ben McDonald pitched against an LSU pitcher. Yeah,
is that a thing?
I read about it on.
That,
I mean, I'm
that
sourcing.
seems very very hard to believe.
I know I'm citing Tiger droppings on this. So
Starting pitching.
yes, it was McDonald and somebody
They've never
else.
faced each other.
Obviously on the same team, they got Stony Brook, which is when you look back
No, I'm
at.
talking about. So that play on the same team. Wait, give me the stat. It's the first time LSU pitchers have faced each other in the big leagues.
As starters.
It doesn't matter. Like
Ever?
they could be. They didn't have to play together at LSU. They were just had to play at LSU.
I think it was. I think a good
Like former
clarification would be
teammates?
teammates. Yeah,
Okay.
just to make it seem more likely. But yeah, that's what it was.
Crazy.
Ben McDonald and somebody else, a name that I knew but don't remember now. So good for LSU.
Good for
Brand is
LSU.
strong.
Brand is very strong.
I went to that series, but Stony Brook was super
That was
regional.
right after me. That was my first year out.
No, it's your fault. Could have used you. Rain delay.
Could have used me, but I was playing. All right, let me go. Want to give me one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
This
my
man is
curtain call.
filibustering.
My curtain call happened a few days ago.
Y'all pick up the homework over
Oh,
there.
look at this guy. This is just in time for the show to end. Just in time for the show to end.
We worked out together today.
My curtain call happened a few days ago, and I am a sucker for all of this, for this kind of stuff. The Dwayne Wade got inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and
that's good.
Dwayne Wade had a moment with his dad, and it was very emotional for all of them. It's something that we talk about this a lot. It was that's the pinnacle of your career. Like your entire career, you're trying to be the best that you can be. You're going game after game, year after year, year after year, battling through injuries, battling through all this adversity to ultimately, hopefully, get an opportunity to be one of the best of all time and make it into the Hall of Fame, whatever sport that is. And your parents are along the way most of the time with you the whole time. And so it's as emotional for them as it is for you, and be able to see them experience that with his dad. That was pretty awesome. I don't have the video in the document, but to me that was pretty cool.
To piggyback off of this, curtain call to his dad for looking like he is not a day over 35.
He does. That look very young.
He is 66 years old.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, he does not look that old.
Bodes well for D-Wade.
Yes. And
And D-Wade
Gabrielle
looks like
Union.
he hasn't aged at all.
No. But that's what shocked me. I was like, how old is this man? He's like, oh, he's in his mid-60s. And it doesn't look it. He just looks incredible. And he deserves the spotlight. I would have hopped up there, too. He hopped up on stage, said, we're Hall of Famers. But, I mean, this man looks like his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. My curtain call will go to two LSU football players who, at this time of the year, there is a list that's come out over the recent years of the college football all freaks list. We got Mason Smith at 17, and we got Malik Neighbors at number 33 on that list. Basically, physically talented. So one that obviously goes a little
Perkins.
bit to the gene pool. No, he's not on the list.
Wow.
Goes to the gene pool a little bit, and is a freshman at number 1. It goes to the gene pool a little bit, but it also goes to the work that they've put in. Right, those guys do the work. Obviously, the work is not also the production that comes on Saturday during the season, but it's really the work that they put in to get to that point. Right, they put the work in. Obviously, come from a blessed spot, but I'll give them a little bit of notice on that and kind of give them a curtain call for that. But that right there is obviously not what matters when it comes to Saturday when they really towed up. So,
Shout out.
I'm stoked that Mason Smith is getting all this recognition because he basically got his sophomore year robbed from him, and now you're I don't want to say you're worried, but you want to see him live up to his full potential.
Yeah.
This happens at LSU
A lot.
and so it'd be nice to finally have somebody in their junior year, money year, show you everything that he has, because you can kind of go back to almost even – I know the stats don't bear out, but Glenn Dorsey's sophomore to junior year after he gets injured, it didn't feel the same, but he still performed at an all-time level his junior year and won – I think every award you can win for a defensive lineman, but when you have those type of players, you'd like to see it. The flash he showed his freshman year, to see it in his junior year would be, he deserves it. And I would love to see it.
Yep. I would
Him
too.
and Harold Perkins on the same field.
Great show today, boys.
Be a wake-up call for all Florida State. They
That
didn't
would
see
be.
either of them.
That would be fun. It's gonna be fun.
We're
Great
going.
show today. We'll be back live on Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. here in our new studio at Cards and Culture in Perkins Row. Come out, join us, have some drinks with us, hang
Jello
out with
shots.
us. We had some Jello shots last week. We had some chocolate shots.
Just never know what you're going to get.
There's
Never know.
chocolate
Show up.
candy without. It was pretty crazy. It's pretty
Creme de la
good.
Mente in
Yeah,
there.
it was pretty good. We appreciate all the love and support. We appreciate you subscribing to our YouTube channel. Please, the thumbs up button does us a lot of good. It helps us out, helps with the old algorithm. We are trying to bring you new content, better content. We are getting through this last little lull of sports, not having mini sports. Football is right around the corner. You're going to have too much to talk about. Probably you're not going to be able to get to all the things. But we appreciate it. If you don't like watching us, you can't watch us. We're anywhere you get your pods. We appreciate all the love and support from all of our sponsors. And, enjoy the rest of your hump day. And we will see you on Friday.
See you.
Peace.
Dylan Cruz is still absolutely
17 RBIs and 10 games.
doing it.
Sounds good.
Is that
Is that good?
17 and 10? I mean,
That plays.
at some point.